They didn't just put a fence on my shoreline, they put my own gate in it, chained it shut, and stood there acting like I was the trespasser. And the wildest part wasn't the metal or the lock or even the sign screaming restricted access, it was how calm they were. That's how you know somebody thinks they've already won. They stop asking and start arranging the furniture. That morning started like every other lake morning on my property. Gravel under my boots, damp earth in the air, mist hanging low, the lake turned pale gold by sunrise. For about 10 seconds I thought I was looking at some weird reflection. Then I realized it wasn't a reflection. It was a fence. A real one, metal posts sunk straight into the ground, rigid panels, bright warning signs clipped along it. HOA warning. Restricted access. Unsafe shoreline. Do not cross. Clean printed, official looking, the kind of wording meant to make regular people stop thinking and just obey. I kept walking slower now. But the closer I got, the worse it looked. That fence cut across my shoreline in a hard straight line, like the land itself was supposed to apologize and adjust. And then I saw the gate. My gate. Same frame, same hinges, same worn handle I'd grabbed for years, only now it had been swallowed into their fence line like it had always belonged to them. I reached for it, pulled once, then harder, and that's when I saw the chain wrapped tight through the frame, locked with a brand new padlock I'd never seen before. The lock controlled access from my side from inside my own property. Behind the fence, a few neighbors had gathered in that awkward half-circle people make when they know something is wrong, but they also want to see how wrong it gets. One guy asked real quiet, "Do you know what this is?" I shook my head. Because I already knew this wasn't some misunderstanding. Nobody spends money on steel post signs and a fresh lock by accident. Later that morning, I found an envelope by my front door. HOA Compliance Office. Notice of violation. Shoreline access non-compliance. I stood there reading a letter that said I had failed to maintain safe access along a shared community path, a path that existed nowhere in my deed, nowhere in my survey, nowhere in any legal record I'd ever signed. That was Karen's trick. She never said the HOA owned my land. She wrote around ownership, used phrases like shared use, corridor safety, oversight, community access, liability concern. She made assumptions sound administrative. And once you wrap a lie in official formatting, people stop treating it like a lie. I'd seen her once before, weeks earlier, standing near the bend in the shoreline, staring at the gate with a clipboard in one hand and that stiff little HOA posture people get when they confuse management with monarchy. At the time, I figured she was just nosy. Turns out she was taking inventory. 2 mornings later, I heard the contractors before I saw them. By the time I got down there, 3 guys were already setting fresh posts near the waterline. One had fencing panels stacked by the truck, and sitting on the tailgate like a joke with hardware was another lock still in the packaging. I walked straight up and said, "What exactly are you doing?" The nearest guy barely looked at me. "Installing per authorization." "Authorization from who?" Another one answered without lifting his head, "HOA work order." That was it. 3 words, enough attitude to close the conversation. They kept drilling, kept bolting, kept turning my shoreline into a visual claim. And visual claims have a nasty habit of becoming accepted if they stand long enough. By that afternoon, there were more notices posted near the upper path declaring the shoreline a shared-use corridor under HOA oversight. Declared, not discussed, not proposed, not proven, just declared. And people bought it. I watched neighbors read that bored nod to themselves, then look at me differently. Not hostile exactly, worse, certain. That's when I quit wasting energy being angry at the fence and started getting interested in paper. I spent the afternoon in the back room of my house with the old purchase file spread across the table. Deed, survey, plat map amendments, county filings. There's a special kind of comfort in old property documents. They don't care who's loud, they just sit there being correct. Line by line, map over map, I traced the boundary from the top of the parcel all the way down to the lake. Clean, separate, mine. The HOA lot stopped uphill. The common areas stopped before the shoreline. No easement, no shared access designation, no corridor. Then I found the clause. Buried in an older amendment was a section so beautiful it almost made me laugh. It said any access point crossing the property, formal or informal, remained under the exclusive control of the landowner unless specifically transferred by recorded agreement, which it hadn't been. In plain English, the shoreline was mine, the gate was mine, and Karen had built an entire fake kingdom on top of quicksand. The next day, she showed up with 2 local officials standing ahead of them near the gate, calm as a weather app, gesturing toward the path and talking about safety hazards and liability. She made the whole theft sound responsible. One official asked, "In this access point?" Karen looked at my gate and said, "That's the primary entry along this shared path." Shared. She dropped that word into the air like it had already been blessed by a judge. I was about to step in when the first real twist hit, and it came from the last person I expected, Linda Mercer, a retired bookkeeper from uphill who'd spent the past month blending into the scenery. Quiet lady, big sunglasses. She walked up late carrying a manila envelope and said, "Before y'all write anything down, maybe you should read this." Inside were printed HOA emails and meeting notes, not rumors, receipts. Karen telling the board they should establish safety control first and sort out ownership later. Another board member asking if they'd confirmed jurisdiction. Karen dodging the question, pushing urgency, recommending temporary barriers pending clarification, then permanent fencing if compliance wasn't met. Compliance with what? With the story she was writing in real time. You could actually watch the officials' posture change as they read. Karen tried to keep the thing afloat, but Linda just shrugged and said, "Funny how urgent it was before anybody checked a deed." Still, paperwork exposes a lie, but a lie already built into metal needs a cleaner ending than that. The following morning, Karen posted another site review notice, same official tone, same little parade near the shoreline. Officials contractor Karen at center stage. I walked down with my document stack under one arm and the original gate key in my pocket. Karen was mid-sentence when I arrived. "Once the reinforcement is completed, the access point will remain secured under standard safety parameters." I didn't argue, didn't announce myself, I just walked past her, straight to the gate. The chain was still wrapped tight through the frame. The new padlock sat there gleaming like it had a future. I reached to the original mechanism, the one Karen's hardware never replaced because she didn't understand what she was looking at, and slid in the old key. I turned it, click. Not loud, not Hollywood dramatic, but to me it sounded like a church bell. The tension released. The chain slackened. That shiny new lock, the one they'd treated like law, suddenly looked exactly like what it was, a prop. I pulled the chain free, set it aside, and pushed the gate open. Behind me, everything went quiet. No tools, no Karen narration. Just lake water moving against the shore, and a few people realizing all at once that they'd been standing inside a lie. Then I turned and handed the officials the deed and the access control clause. One of them scanned the page, frowned, read it again, slower, then looked over at Karen. "Where is this shared access designated in the record?" Karen opened her mouth, but for the first time since this started, nothing useful came out fast. The second official spoke even softer, which somehow made it hit harder. "It isn't." That was it. No shouting, no dramatic arrest, just the clean little death of a bad idea once facts entered the room. The contractor capped his pen. The officials stepped aside and started talking in low voices that no longer included Karen. And Karen HOA, Empress of Stolen Shoreline, just stood there face tight, watching her authority leak out through the crack of an unlocked gate. By the end of the week, the fence came down, one section at a time. Quietly, almost embarrassingly. No grand statement. Just workers removing the same posts they'd sunk so confidently, loading panels back onto trucks, lifting signs that had spent days pretending language could outrank a deed. A couple evenings later, I walked back down there alone. The air had that soft end-of-day stillness. The lake was all gold and blue, and the bend in the path looked like itself again. No signs, no caution tape, no metal line cutting the shore into ours and yours. Just my gate right where I'd put it years ago. I took the original key from my pocket, unlocked it, opened it, and stood there for a second listening to the water. And that's when the real lesson of the whole thing landed on me. A lot of people think power comes from volume, from money titles, committees, uniforms, signs. Sometimes it does for a minute. But fake power has one weakness: it has to keep being performed. Real authority doesn't. Real authority can sit quiet in a file cabinet for 10 years and still walk down to the shoreline one morning and open the gate. Not that Karen was greedy, greed is boring. Not that neighbors were gullible, people will believe almost anything if it's laminated. It's that truth loses ground fast when decent people keep waiting for somebody else to speak first. Karen got as far as she did because too many folks confused confidence with correctness. So yeah, when that gate swung open and her whole little empire folded up like a cheap lawn chair, I won't lie to you, it felt good. Real good. Karma didn't come in like thunder. It came in with a Kia click and a quiet woman named Linda who finally got tired of nonsense. Because the fence is gone, the signs are gone, Karen keeps her distance, and the lake acts like none of it was worth noticing. So here's what I want to know: if somebody can almost steal what's yours just by sounding official long enough, where do you think the real line is? At the property marker, or in the moment somebody finally says no? Tell me in the comments who is actually more dangerous here, Karen for pushing it, or the neighbors and board members who let it happen until proof hit them in the face. And if you've ever dealt with HOA nonsense, fake authority, or somebody trying to bully you off your own ground, I want to hear that story too.